Hello, everyone, and welcome to Now Spinning, the official podcast of the Lansing Community College Vinyl Record Club. We meet twice a month to listen to vinyl and talk about music. Stay tuned to learn about how you can get in touch with us and attend our meetings. All right, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today in the room with me, I have
Noah Miller,
Jacob Zakvik,
Leo Ackerman,
and I'm Simon Medina, as always. And today we're going to be talking about, well, our favorite albums of the year 2024, now that it's almost over, and I don't know if there's going to be anything coming out in December that's going to change my mind.
I have a terrible thing. You sent this in the group message. Like, I don't think there's any more albums. There's an album coming out in 3 days that I'm extremely excited for, but I didn't want to, you seemed really excited about this idea. I didn't want to spoil it for you, but Wallace, Wallice. They've got, I believe, their debut album comes out in 3 days. So I'm excited for it. I don't know if it's going to be great, but I thought I'd sneak that in here while you mentioned it.
Well, let's hope it's not then. Okay.
There were other good albums this year, so I got plenty to talk about.
Well, what was your favorite album then? What
you want to jump right in? All right, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to talk about mine for super long, so maybe mine's a good place to start.
Yep.
So my favorite album of the year is called Beam of Light by the artist Worthy Kids. WORTHIKIDS. Worthy Kids. So there were a ton of great albums this year. There were a bunch I was really excited about. I mentioned to you earlier, Waxahachie, Calero, were big ones. Voids had an album out this year. I like the Waxahachie and Calero albums. I really, really liked, but I just found I wasn't listening to them as much. And when you said favorite album of 2024, I realized oh, I know exactly what the album is. And it's not famous. It's not necessarily one people would expect. But yeah, so Beam of Light by Worthy Kids. Worthy Kids is primarily a YouTube animator, makes funny animations on YouTube. That's how I discovered them. I really enjoy them. They're very funny, but they're also a musician, they're quite talented musician. And I had never super listened to their music. It was all available on YouTube, but I never didn't really care. But this year they released this is an album. This is a proper album. Some of the stuff they'd previously released, but some new stuff, and it's great. I freaking love it. So I don't really know how to describe the genre, kind of heavy alternative. I realized that the best way to describe them was comparing them to other bands, probably. So I would say they're a mix of Modest Mouse with just a little bit of Queens of the Stone Age and then Ween.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, right up this podcast's alley.
That's a solid mix.
But yeah. And you can really tell the kind of early 2000s alternative influence. But the recording is kind of raw, kind of it's all very high energy and stuff. But yeah, you can tell it was recorded by one dude. And he freaking nailed it. Ian Worthington is the actual name of the artist. But Worthy Kids is what they go by online. And yeah, I had a bunch of albums I could have talked about, but ultimately didn't listen to them that much. And I wanted to talk about this one specifically because your favorite album, and when people ask you about your favorites and stuff, don't be afraid to say stuff nobody knows. And I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like that's an important thing for us to all remember, even when we're talking about some fairly famous stuff. But yeah, it kind of helped me get through a difficult time earlier this year because it was fun, but it was also kind of emotionally complex in some ways. If you listen to some of the songs, you can definitely tell there's some feeling behind them. And it's relatable without being just a direct story, so it's not too relatable. And it's really good. Highly recommend it if anybody wants to go listen to it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about it, really. Mine's probably pretty short this time.
Gotcha. Was Ian playing most of the instruments by themselves?
Yeah. So the instrumentation, I get the impression they write a lot of their music on bass guitar. Not sure. They might be writing on guitar, but every guitar part is super bass heavy. And they do a lot of the unison playing where guitar and bass are playing the exact same riff, so it's all just one big guitar sound. But yeah, they're playing a lot of that. There's clearly some use of virtual instruments. There's some weird like hurdy-gurdy type sounds on there, which like I'm pretty sure he doesn't have one of those lying around, but maybe they do. I don't know. But yeah, I believe they're playing all the instruments. Actually, I should mention for people that like, me are kind of terminally online a little bit. If you are a fan of funny internet musicians, Ian Worthington, this guy from We're the Kids, just started a group with Brian David Gilbert and Louis Zhang, who are both also YouTube musicians, funny people stuff. So there you go.
The Ween comparison has me intrigued. I did not expect that.
So lyrically, there's some kind of weirder songs. They've got one. Eye of Newt might be what it's called. It's something like that. But it is a song written from a witch's perspective, making like a beauty potion or like a youth potion. And so just like some of the weird lyrical directions, and especially some of the way they like are changing the way they're singing and stuff, it just gives me this Ween sort of like variety, but still basically being a rock band vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, none of the songs are funny. It's just not serious in the way that you might expect like an alternative album to be. But it is serious, and it does have serious notes. So I don't know. I don't know how to manage people's expectations before going to listen to it, because it feels very unique. It feels very different. And that's probably why I enjoyed it so much.
Right.
Listened to it all summer, all fall, and right up into now. But yeah, Ween-esque, but yeah, sound-wise, obvious Modest Mouse influences.
Okay.
The one I would call out for. But yeah, a little bit heavier, a little bit tonally different, but very similar. But highly recommend. Check them out.
Yeah, will do. I listened to that a little bit. One thing I was going to say, when you said it's not like going out to be funny, there is actually a song on here that's called Funny, but I don't know if that's a funny song.
So good. It's not funny at all.
No, it's not.
So that song, like,
which is funny in and of itself.
Yeah,
that's why they call it that.
It's so that song, like the chorus is literally "I feel funny," and it's talking about having, kind of weird emotions and negative emotions, and trying to kind of work through that. But I'm almost reading too much into the lyrics because they're quite vague. But it's an intense sound in that song. The chorus is very driving. The vocals are basically shouted. You can tell Ian's putting his all into it. He's really singing his heart out. And it's weird because you don't, when I first listened to the album, I kind of thought like, oh, this is just some dude. And I almost felt like the singing wasn't that confident. But when I gave it a second listen, I was like, he is singing his heart out. Like, this is total confidence. And yeah, I'm really impressed by it. But yeah, not a funny song. I would actually say, like, in terms, like I mentioned being in a bit of a rough spot earlier this year. And even still going forward, that song really resonates with me in a like, yeah, some days you don't feel great and some days you feel depressed and stuff. But some days, even when you don't feel as depressed, you still don't feel great. And you just feel kind of funny and you just feel like you're not going to make it. And that's okay. And, the song kind of expresses that emotion. At least that's how it connected with me. So there you go. Funny. Probably my favorite song off of it, actually.
It is very good.
Mm-hmm. Beam of Light, the title track, is also kind of depressing, but I also really like it. So there you go.
Yeah, good album.
Right. What do we got next?
Oh, do you want me to?
You want to go?
All right, I guess I can go.
Eeny, meeny, miny.
Yep. Alrighty. Well, I'm going to be talking about an album that I think we we touched on a little bit a couple weeks ago with our Black Midi album deep dive, and I said I hope it's going to be good because I thought it was going to be really good, and turns out that it was. And I am, of course, talking about The New Sound by Jordy Greep, everybody's favorite weird British guy right now. I think
Friend of the show,
great friend of the show, Jordy Greep. this album, when they dropped Holy Holy, I thought that, well, like, there's no way it can get any better than this. This is like probably the best thing he's ever done. And I listened to the album and I was incorrect because, I mean, that's still like the second best song in the album, but it does get better actually. It's just a natural evolution of what they started doing with Black Midi, especially with their last album, Hellfire, with the just like the cast of characters that are just like the worst people you could possibly imagine.
Loathsome characters.
Yeah, terrible people, but portrayed in just like kind of a sympathetic way where it's not like you feel sympathy for them, but you just kind of like you see them for how pathetic they really are, and you're just like, you can't even be mad at them. Sometimes you're like, oh geez, like these poor people.
But yeah, it's almost kind of relatable, except for all of like the heinous stuff that these characters do. But yeah, you're kind of put into it in a place where you can almost like you're very close to actually like relating to this person, but then they just go off and are like, yeah, just the worst. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
they make the terrible decision that you never could.
Yeah.
They're the monster you could never be, which is kind of fun when the character is relatable.
Yeah,
because you really do get to kind of consider like, oh man, what would it be like to be that psycho?
No, definitely. And not just beyond the characters, like the music itself is just incredible. It takes kind of the sort of like prog rock, whatever you want to call Black Midi, that kind of thing. They take that and they combine that with a healthy blend of like Latin jazz fusion, and it works spectacularly, I think. Maybe a little bit of Steely Dan in there, just a touch, just a smidge.
Absolutely, Steely Dan.
Yes.
Most notably, I think Donald Fagen.
The man himself.
The White Fly. Really big Donald Fagen influence across the whole record, I think.
Yeah, just like the way that every song is about like a guy, and they're just explaining how he's a bad person and all the stuff that he does. I think kind of
approaching it with like as much disgust as he is humor, almost.
Right.
Like, yeah, these guys suck, and they suck, but we're gonna have a little bit of fun with telling the story.
Precisely, that's what I'm talking about here. And then a couple things that they did with this album was like, I think like sound wise, what did they recorded it in like a week or something. Like this was done like in like he just went to Brazil, just like made an album and came back casually.
Days,
he was on tour with Black Midi and just went, okay, I need to record a solo album at some point, so I might as well do it now.
And then
like extremely skilled session musicians.
And then this just came out, and that is just incredible.
Some of them didn't even speak the same language with them.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It's the language of music.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And so I remember listening to the Black Midi episode of the podcast, and you guys kind of discussed this, but like when he was like, hey guys, I gotta go record a solo album, they had no idea that was the precursor to him breaking up the band.
Yeah, no, that was just kind of out of nowhere. He just announced it on like an Instagram live. It was just no more Black Midi. It's over. And then they just had to live with that.
It wasn't like he was like going behind their back and doing like solo stuff, because Cameron had been performing on his own under the Camera Picture name. Morgan Simpson at this point is a pretty prolific session drummer. So they'd all been doing stuff on their own, but yeah, I think it was the precursor in a lot of ways to the band.
They were like going on hiatus, but I don't think they decided they were going to break up. But then he was just like, yeah, we're done. And they were like, oh.
But nobody in the band was like, why is he making a solo album in Brazil?
Yeah.
That's just a Greep thing to do. I don't think anybody was surprised when he did that. It's in character.
Anyway.
But I just want to mention, just if I were to name like any individual tracks I think stand out incredibly on this album, it would be I think that the songs Walk Up, that's one I liked a lot. That one, it's like very much like a Black Midi song. I think this actually was performed live with Black Midi while they were still around, but it was called Lumps back then, but they changed the name of it when it came out here. And I love that song just because at the very end of it, there's just like a recording of just like a bunch of people arguing, and then it goes into like a little country song at the end. And then it's such a beautiful little change. It reminds me, I mean, I'm wearing the Ween shirt today, so I figured I was going to mention them at some point, but that song especially gives me like the vibes of just a little bit like that. You know what I mean?
Big Ween vibes.
Big Ween vibes. That's what I'm saying. But no.
We literally cannot get away from them in this podcast.
It's my fault. I'm very sorry. And then just the other song I wanted to just shout out real quick is just The Magician, which is a 10-minute epic It's a beautiful song. I don't really know what to say about it other than it's just incredible to listen. Like, you just have to sit down, listen to this all the way through. That's really, if there's one song off this album you listen to, I would say pick that one definitely.
It very much encapsulates like all the themes that were kind of expressed during the album, the journey of the album, like just the patheticness, the yearning for this connection with other people, and just this inability to kind of get over yourself in order to do that, and just kind of admitting, yeah, I'm the problem, but there's also things wrong with this other person. It's just a really good like summation of all the things that were being talked about throughout the album.
Beautiful. Yeah, great album, great song. I am very excited to see where he goes from here.
Very excited to see him.
A little, yeah.
We're both going.
Yes, we are. February 1st.
Something like that.
I will give a review at some point when we get back. Maybe
I'm going to see him in Asheville, North Carolina.
He's coming to Kalamazoo, I think, in like.
What?
Yeah, man.
I did not see that date when I looked at whatever was going on.
Oh no.
Tickets.
We'll talk more about that after the show, maybe.
Well,
yeah. But anyway, Jordy Greep, great musician, wonderful guy, a little scary. But
the new sound.
The new sound.
Great album.
Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
All right.
Moving on. So, Leo, you have an album, yes?
Yes, I do.
Oh boy.
Okay. So the record that I picked as my favorite of the year personally is Imaginal Disc by Magdalena Bay. They're a pop duo from Miami, Florida, I believe, made of Mika Tenenbaum and Matthew Levin. They started out in 2016, gained traction on TikTok with the song Kill Shot. They're pretty notable for their like campy early internet visuals, as well as their approach to showing what's going on behind the scenes in music making. Their first record, Mercurial World, was great. Highlight of, I think it was 2021. Very solid synth pop, incredibly fun and punchy. But Imaginal Disc, in my opinion, steps it up to a completely new level.
If you don't mind me jumping in here,
Yes.
I have the opposite opinion. Imaginal Disc is great, but I'm going to be that classic guy that goes like, their first album was better. Like, I hate to do that to you, but I love Mercurial World.
I'm going to say confidently, I think you're incredibly wrong.
Okay. And that's, again, I do really like Imaginal Disc.
I just think the production on Imaginal Disc absolutely bodies that of Mercurial World. They take away some of the pop appeal, but they replace that with incredible kaleidoscopic production. I can't think of another record that sounds exactly like Imaginal Disc. I think the instrumentation is out of this world. Mika's performance is fantastic. Her vocals are consistently clean. It sounds like she could walk on water. She's so light and airy. It's fantastic. What are some other points I made here? I think the genre difference is noteworthy here because Mercurial World, it is synth pop primarily. But Imaginal Disc is more of a psychedelia record, way more of a progressive pop effort.
But Mercurial World was very experimental also. And I would argue like drifts into like dream pop and stuff a lot.
And I think I agree with you there. But I feel like that was just setting the groundwork for what they would do later on Imaginal Disc.
But when Imaginal Disc came out, I wanted it to be more experimental. I actually found it very interesting that you think it's just this huge experiment for them, because I thought it seemed a little safe actually. So we heard the same album and got different impressions. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah,
one thing I need to talk about really quick is the concept of the record, which is quite a bit. Magdalena Bay is a super theatrical, I'm going to say dorky group, honestly, in their approach.
yeah.
And they're comfortable with that. And this record sees them take that dorkiness to a whole new level. It's a concept record about aliens putting discs into human heads in order to improve them.
And that is the album cover, actually.
Yes, it is.
Incredible. No, yeah, it's just someone putting a DVD into somebody's forehead.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
Incredible. Incredible artwork.
I read somewhere that that aliens put the discs into the heads of apes in order to evolve them into human beings, but I could be wrong there.
Possibly.
What I want to focus on most is the hooks, because every single song has a crazy hook. I think every single track has at least 3 hooks, whether it's the vocals, the instrumentation, or I don't know, even the bridges are incredibly catchy.
Can I steal one from you right now?
Yes, you can.
Vampire in the Corner. The
Beautiful.
vocals in that one, when she goes to that like high shouty part halfway through, I remember the first time I listened to it, I had to like stop what I was doing and I restarted the song. I was like, that was awesome. That was like the perfect to me experimentation, and like you said, move into psychedelia where like it's not a bad sound, it's not even that different really, but it pushed that song, which was kind of a chill vibe, into just so much more energy. And like, I mean, it's like halfway through the album, and it just like, it's one of those moments, like you said, is a hook where you're like, all right, I'm fully invested now. And it is very good. That's probably my favorite song off the album even.
The way every song transitions into one another also, it's so cohesive. It's so well thought out and so meticulous. It's addictive to me. I cannot get enough of the production, whether it be the buzzing synths on That's My Floor.
Yeah, that's good.
Also, the space rock breakdown of Tunnel Vision, that's the experimentation that I found the most rewarding. They did away with the traditional structures of Mercurial World and said, we're going to do whatever we think sounds cool. And I think it completely pays off on Tunnel Vision. Not to mention Image. Oh my God, Image. I think that it's a closer song to Mercurial World than most of the other songs on the record.
Which is weird because Image I almost think is kind of boring. Like
Wow.
I wild to think compared to the rest of the album.
Well,
it is a good song.
Fighting him on every little aspect. Of
I
this
am.
album.
I have to. Okay, so
Not necessarily.
clearly we both love Magdalena Bay.
Yes.
And clearly that's like we both really liked the album, and that's like if you hadn't said it was your favorite of the year, it would have come pretty close to being mine. And so I think it's natural that like we've clearly both listened to it a bunch of times. So of course we're gonna have disagreements on it because we both like have so much invested in it. But I do love it, and I don't want it to sound like I'm crapping all over it. Leo's right. It's outstanding.
All I gotta say is I think Imaginal Disc is euphoric. I think it's a hand reaching out to the audience to pull them into this kaleidoscopic world. And not only that, I think it's an image of what pop production will become in the future. I think we really need to keep an eye on them. I mean, they're doing incredible now, but I'm incredibly excited for what they're going to do in the future. That's all I got to say.
I have to agree with you there. I'm not really, I mean, I don't consider myself like that big of like a modern pop fan. Like you know me, I'm just like, I listen to old people music, but this one is very different, honestly. Like I think just one thing I want to mention here, actually, I thought that the funniest part of this album is there's just a song that's called Feeling Disconcerted, but like it's spelled like disc inserted. I thought that was it was funny.
It's campy. It's awesome.
No, yeah, they know what they're doing. Also, the song Killing Time was my favorite. I adore that song. That one was really good.
Yeah. Imaginal Disc. Please listen to it.
Go listen to Imaginal Disc.
Highly recommend.
Very good.
Lastly.
All right. So my album, it's Against the Fall of Night by a group called Sungazer. Now, Sungazer is a YouTube duo consisting of Adam Neely, the bassist, and Sean Crowder is the drummer. Generally, how they would write songs in the past, they've had a couple EPs, and they had a first album a couple years ago called Perihelion. Usually those songs would be started off by Sean playing drums and sending like a drum solo basically to Adam, and then Adam would kind of fill in all the extra instruments around them. And so as far as like genres, it's jazz fusion with a very heavy emphasis on the fusion aspect. There's a lot of electronic elements going in there. There's a lot of math rock, a lot of weird time signatures. They really like to play with quintuplets, septuplets, and basically what a tuplet is, it's dividing the beat into subdivisions that are different from your like eighth note, 16th note, 32nd note, that sort of stuff. So instead of getting like a group of 4, like you get a group of 5, like and that's like the basis of your backbeat. And they just kind of use that 5 to kind of go around. They kind of take that concept and add so many different tuplets between each beat.
And for those who don't know, it's hard. You have to be a pretty good musician to feel that beat.
Yeah. I'm not quite to this album yet, but just kind of also explaining like the difficulty of this is they have a song called Threshold, which has the slowest possible beat relationship that humans can keep together.
Perceive.
Yeah. Beat perception, like the relationship between like one beat and another. They have the slowest tempo that can be perceived, and in that they can fit 19 tuplets, which is the fastest distance that people can perceive. And kind of right in the middle, you get this sort of like awkward, like 3/4 sort of groove. And that's the song Threshold off of Perihelion. But getting into this album, they just the last album kind of focused on like how many like tuplets can we fit. This one is a lot more like groove focused. So there's like metal, there's like dubstep, there's like video game elements thrown in there too. And the amount of features on this particular album is pretty crazy. We have Pliny, he's kind of a big guitarist in the math rock scene. Mark Lettieri, he's played with Snarky Puppy. We have Button Masher for like keyboards and stuff. We have Joshua De La Victoria. He's played with Matt Garska of Animals as Leaders, some more math rock stuff. And then there's like some more local musicians from the New York scene that they're based out of. Shub Saran, Jared Yee, he plays saxophone on just about all of their newer material. And then someone who's actually going to be opening up for them when I go see them in January, Pierre Luigi Salami. I haven't really taken a look into their music as much, but based on the track that they're featured on, Odeldonk, it's more of like a piano focused, kind of like Button Masher, but also there's this other keyboard player Anomaly is kind of another like sort of example of that sort of sound too. But yeah, the primary focus on this one is groove and keeping those on-time signatures, like just, making you want to move and stuff. A lot of visceral, like metric modulation changes, like stuff on like Scraunch. They take this sort of like 7 groove and then kind of stretch and morph it into this like kind of faster like 3 groove. And I don't know, there's just a lot more bounce to it. But then there's like this cool, like laid back sort of pocket to the main groove as well.
They do a good job of really messing with the beat without you ever losing it.
Yeah,
and I think that represents or shows very well just how like talented of musicians they really are. Is it kind of has that classic like, well, this doesn't sound that hard, but then when you really pay attention, you're like, oh, this is insane.
Yeah. You try and like lock in with that actual beat that Sean's playing, and it's like, oh, there's this weird anticipation that I have to like jerk my body around to feel. But when you actually finally feel it, it feels pretty natural.
And that's, I think, you like when you said jerk your body around, it made me think of that like jazz, and I know this is jazz fusion, but it's still jazz. That sort of like when you're really good, it looks easy, like kind of like I just mentioned, but like it seems simple because they're so good at what they're doing. You know what I mean? And like that's all jazz, but that when it's hard to feel the beat, but ultimately it's still very much there. And I think that really illustrates just like how insane these people are, how well practiced they are, how much they understand just music. They can hop into this and do it,
Yeah, that's kind of another thing, is that these guys, as much as they were like students at Berklee, they were students of music basically. Adam spends a lot of time on his channel really just kind of like telling people to sort of push like the boundaries of what they're actually like feeling musically and not get so bogged down in the technicality of what's going on. Ultimately, you do want that technicality to, come through in your playing, but you don't want it to be forced. And that's kind of what a lot of Berkeley music sort of sounds like.
It's what a lot of jazz fusion sounds like. Even very traditional jazz fusion.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much jazz with heavy mathy breakdowns. Like there's some Mario Kart sounding tracks if you want to throw it on in your gaming playlist. And there's just a lot of like really well meshed electronica elements, really cool like metal elements, and just all around really cool math rock, jazz, electronic fusion stuff.
Very excellent.
Powerful.
I need to check that out. I haven't heard anything from them since I think their second EP.
The one with like electro on it.
Yeah.
That track is dope. It's like pretty much dubstep breakdowns in the middle, with like a quintuplet like drum solo at the back end. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that does about wrap it up for today as far as we're concerned with time. But if you're interested in coming into any of our meetings, you can check out the link that's going to be included with the show to our website. That you can find there. You're going to find the schedule for all of our meetings for the next year, all of our meeting themes, and any other information you'd ever need about the club. All of our other old podcast links will be included on the website as well. If you're just generally a music fan, or if you've just been collecting records for a long time, anybody's welcome to come to the record club. It's a very welcoming group of people. Like I said, any level of experience with vinyl, or if you just don't even own any and you just want to listen to good music, come on down. It's a great place. But yeah, anyway, thanks everybody for your time, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Love you so much.
Love you.
Go
see you
listen
later.
to every album we recommended.
Go listen to all of those, please.
Also, go watch my YouTube review. It's just my name and just Noah Miller. Type in Jordy Greep review. You should find it. Yeah,
yes, check out his YouTube video. Good night. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.